All right, thanks very much, everybody. My name's MacDougall. I'm a professor at Western University. I'm wearing my corduroy jacket with the elbow patches because I wanted to look like a history professor, which is what I am. And I have just about 5 minutes, or 5 to 7 minutes. It's going to take me 4 or 5 of those minutes to answer the question that I know you are all asking, which is, why on earth should I care what a history professor thinks about augmented reality? So I'll give you a couple of reasons. First of all, by and large, historians have no money. So when I tell you about the augmented reality devices or applications we've been building, the apps we've created, the ARG for history education that we beta tested last year, you'll know that we did it all on the cheap, with homemade electronics, with off-the-shelf software, with open source tools, poorly paid graduate students, which is sort of like an open source tool. And if you're interested in getting into this, or if you are in this, you may see that cheapness as a feature rather than a bug. Second reason to listen to a historian on questions of media and technology and social change, historians try to take the long view. History is, at its best, the antidote to hype, to the hype cycle that Bruce showed us this morning. People with no history, teenagers, Americans, people in the tech industry, they have no immune system against the height of that utopian excitement or the trough of that dystopian despair. The future will be awesome, the future will be terrible. History hopefully gives us a little bit of perspective, the ability to step back, take a thoughtful look at what new technologies might mean or might require. Third, history has always been about augmenting reality because the past augments the present. The traces of the past are all around us. The world is awash in narratives and meanings and stories, but only if you have the tools or the eyes to see them. And knowing the history of a specific place, the ground where you're standing, adds a layer of meaning or significance to our everyday lives. It enhances our citizenship and our connection to one another, our everyday world. Probably if you think about history in AR, you imagine something like this, an image from the past overlaid on an image of the present. That's very cool. That's even cooler, a painting. This is actually even sort of creepy. This is St. Petersburg overlaid with the siege of Leningrad. But I don't know how to do any of these things. What my colleagues and I at Western and with Oren have been playing around with for a few years is interactive museum exhibits, place-based history, place-based computing, what my friend Bill Turkel calls history appliances, and finally alternate or augmented reality games and activities. And I'll leave it to you to decide which of our efforts sort of meet Azuma's definition of augmented reality. But I'm talking about things like putting an audio tour into a talking hat that tells different visitors different stories depending on who wears it and where they go. Or subversive historical plaques. Like everyone, historical plaque is augmented reality already. It's a physical place augmented with context and sensitive information. And like everybody in history AR, we had our students designing smartphone apps that amounted to glorified historical plaques. And we called them smart plaques, but they aren't really any smarter than ordinary historical plaques. So we got interested in what we called smart-ass plaques, which are plaques that subvert or critique the kind of bland, authorless history that you generally see in heritage sites, plaques that contradict or argue with one another, plaques that try to trick you, or pose riddles or mysteries to you, plaques that visitors can annotate and revise. And then maybe the most ambitious thing we've done so far is an ARG called To Come See Lies Here. This is a game that confronts its players with a real-life historical mystery and expects them, in the course of playing the game, to do genuine historical research. So we sprinkle clues online and off, on the web, but also in libraries, museums, battlefields, heritage sites, and we set our players loose doing traditional library research, online research, but also playing with place-based devices and exercises. So they're interacting with 18th century technologies. I don't know if you can see the little, next to the box, there's a little disc there. That's a Jefferson cipher wheel. It's an 18th century device for creating and cracking codes. They defined all the disks and put it together to crack the codes. And then 21st century technologies, this here, this is AR of the box. This is the box. This is the box that AR comes out of. It's a box with a reverse GPS device inside that our players found this in a graveyard, but it could only be opened after the box was physically taken to the right series of historically significant locations. And the game climaxed at a big 1812 reenactment with hundreds of reenactors running around looking for Wi-Fi signals, which is a great sort of example of, I don't know, atemporality or the interplay of the 21st and the 18th century. So what have we learned from our experiments in trying to do AR on the cheap, out of the box, on the slide? First of all, if we can do it, you can do it. The big question we wanted to answer was, is AR just for software companies, media companies, or is there anything in this medium for history professors, high school teachers, small museums, libraries? And the answer is yes, like that. So that yes, ... with help. We're going to run Tecumseh Lies here again next year with a number of high schools, some First Nation students in Native communities. We're designing a kit so that you can run your own ARG, historical ARG. So we're thinking a lot about partnerships, about what people can do on their own, what they can do with off-the-shelf software and homemade stuff, and what they need help doing. That's the place that we're excited about exploring. Second thing we learned is, of course, a number of people are going to say this, is that AR can be a lot more, or could be a lot more than visors and iPhones and visual overlay. And this kind of seamless visual experience is sexy and appealing, but for us, the best moments of the game came when we gave people things to tinker with, things to unpack, things lashed together with rubber bands, as Bruce was saying this morning. We couldn't make the experience seamless or the tech invisible, so instead we made it visible and tactile. Playing our game is not like caressing an iPhone, it's like building something out of Tinker Toys. And I think that's a very valid and attractive alternate vision for AR. And then the third thing we learned, the last thing I'll say, is that if you can't dazzle them with the technology, then you need to have a purpose. You need to answer why. And your AR is going to flop or fly to the extent that you have a purpose. Reality has a lot of content already, and it doesn't need that much augmenting, or at least the burden of proof should be on the people who want to augment it. You may not care about history, and I hope you do, but you may not. But whatever brought you to AR, whatever brought you here today, I think you need to have an answer to the question, augmented why? Augmented with what? Our answer is that connecting yourself to the history of a place makes you a better citizen, a better neighbor, a wiser person. So for us, AR is not just about holding your iPhone at arm's length. It's about connecting people to places and to meaning and to our shared past and to one another. So thank you for listening to a historian talk for a little bit about